All right. That was, of course, Yella Yell, which I can never say appropriately. I know we showcased that before, but it was stuck in my head earlier this week, and I figured if I have to suffer through it again, so do you. Joining us on the show this week, my boss, Chris Roberts. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Jared. How you doing?
Welcome back. I'm doing well.
Thank you.
Twice on Reverse the Verse in a year. That's a personal record for us here.
It's only March still.
It's only March. All right. Yeah. So, Alpha 3.0 on live now. Alpha 3.1 on PTU to subscribers and concierge members, and hopefully going a little wider.
And Evocati.
And Evocati. Yeah. And Alpha 3.2 on the horizon. How are things? How are we doing?
Pretty good. So, this is the first of our quarterly releases. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that things are tracking really well. I know there was a fair amount of skepticism out there. But we're pretty confident that we're going to make the 3.1 release. Our burn down tracks exactly to the date we're looking for and everything. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's always a couple of last minute things that I could have just messed it up there, but no, we're feeling good. I think we're going to have a strong PTU release today. We'll do another one on tomorrow. We've put a lot of work into the telemetry. We still got more work to do, but in terms of us being able to look at the performance both on servers and on clients, and also on clients out in the wild. So some of our Evocati members can do a capture, and then we can look at exactly what was happening on their machine. And it's really useful because for us, in our QA environment, we don't see a lot of the stuff that happens out in the wild. There's obviously, we got a pretty big QA department. It's just under 70 people, but still they're not going to do the same thing that thousands of backers do and all the crazy stuff. So having the data that we can just automatically capture, so like we put stuff in that if the server starts to dip below a certain frame rate, it automatically just starts capturing a few seconds of the performance, and then we can take a look and see where the time's been spent in the routines. The same on the clients. So that's helping a lot. We're building some more telemetry in terms of various sort of things that people do, so we can sort of see what people are doing in the game and how it's working. So that's been sort of a behind the scenes effort that we've been working on. And I think that's helping with our ongoing performance enhancements. So 3.1 is definitely performing better than 3.0. Mm-hmm. And that's going to continue on as we work on some of our more long-term things that we've talked about, which the object container streaming will help with sort of memory. We've got asynchronous spawning that we're getting closer to have working properly. It's quite complicated to get working because the game wasn't built. It was just built to create things on the main thread, and so people program things assuming they can touch anything at any one time, which you can't do when you're on multiple threads. And it's such a big code base that it requires a lot to retrofit it or change things out, refactor them to be a new thing. So, but all those things will make, so for instance, you play and some AI spawn in right now, there'll be a hitch because they have to load in and there's a stall on the main thread until everything's loaded in. But long term, that will go away because they'll load in the background when they're ready. The main thread will be notified, and then bam, they'll be turned on. So we're putting all these things in place. So I'm feeling really quite good about it. We've added some new features like the service beacon stuff. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of this sort of UI improvement and polishes I think people have noted, and little things like the procedural ground foot following. Everyone I've noticed quite a few people posting videos and liking that, which is good. And we've tried to work in some things to improve like interdiction and stuff like that. So generally it's going pretty well. It'll be our first one, and I know we've got to earn the belief or the trust of everyone that we say, okay, we're doing quarterlies. We actually do quarterlies. So this one will be a good step. The next one won't be a good step. So it's going good. But one of the reasons why we're doing this show here, because the best way to do this is as we've planned out a roadmap, but obviously you sort of check in where you are when you sort of get your release out and say, okay, like this is what we're going to do for 3.2, this is what we're going to do for 3.3, 3.4. Are there things that we want to fix or change that we didn't foresee when we first did this roadmap? Right. Are there things that we want to address for quality of life, or things we could do in the game to make the gameplay right now feel better? Because ultimately, the amount of functionality that we have actually in the game right now if it all works together and works well, is more than a lot of release games. I mean, you know, Sea of Thieves just came out, and you know, we have like more variety of missions, hell of a lot more ships, a bunch more stuff that you can do, and a lot more area to play in. But you know, they spent a lot of time polishing some of their basic stuff. I know people complain that they still want more features in that, because I think that's generally gamers were like, I want more all the time. But you know, we've been talking internally about, you know, Star Citizen it's not a sprint, it's a sort of long.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, it's a very, it's more than a marathon. It's like, you know, a walk around the world. Yeah, you know, there's definitely things that, in terms of the gameplay, if we work on and fix, you know, I think performance is obviously one, but just being able to play with your friends and get together easily with them, you know, some of the stuff that comes with the multi-crew ships that we haven't finished off properly yet, you know, I think the base gameplay can be a lot of fun because it's kind of a fun sandbox. So we've been discussing about maybe, or not maybe, definitely putting a little more focus in some of the near-term kind of features or improvement of the features, as opposed to always focusing on like the next big feature we're trying to get in. Because, you know, if you looked at 3.0, we put a vast amount of things into it, but we didn't spend enough time making sure the base stuff was working well. So what you had was a whole bunch of new features, but a lot of stuff that used to work in 2.6 or before that ended up not being as good or being broken. And so we've been fixing a bunch of that in 3.1, but we still got more to do. So, you know, we've got things that we want to address, and you know, how it feels when you fly around. We're not, you know, the IFCS and the flight model still has a bunch of work we want to do. You know, the feel of FPS moving around, again, same stuff. So, you know, it's a long-term slog. So we've sort of, right now, we're taking a look at it going, okay, what for 3.2 that we didn't foresee that maybe we want to spend some time working on, and you know, and then just sort of reassess some of the stuff that we're doing for 3.2, and then maybe move a couple of the bigger things off to 3.3, so we have more time to do some sort of quality of life or kind of fixes or improvements to systems right now. So that's the phase we're at. This is what we'll do every single, we sort of do it as we're coming up to the release. We're assessing it just to make sure all the teams are aligned. You know, our new production process is working really well. We've factored into sort of a much more sort of team-based agile scrum, and our sort of velocity in terms of fixes and resolving issues is much better. I mean, we've, I think, resolved something like 8,000 during 3.1. You can't correct me if I'm wrong, but
that seems right.
And then
talking to Dennis,
and I think it was like 15,000 for the whole of 3.0, which was basically a year. You know, so, and our velocity is you know, 120 issues resolved a day versus the 30 or even 20 that we had during 3.0. So I think the teams working together, because we really work to try to put everyone together, not like, here's the programmers, here's the designers. It's like, okay, you know, your vehicle feature team 1, your vehicle feature team 2, your gameplay team, and you've got the designers and the engineers and the artists, and we're actually putting them all together, and we're trying to co-locate people so the teams are sort of oriented in the various studios. We're not having them spread between time zones as much as we used to. And I think it's sort of really helped in the turnaround and also the energy and the morale of the team. So generally we're, you know, it's early days, but we're feeling pretty good about kind of the velocity and trajectory we're going to do. So that's why we're sitting here, and we thought, you know, the discussion I had with my brother Aaron, who was just out here, unfortunately he got on a plane yesterday evening, otherwise I would have put him in this seat instead of me, is that, you know, we were talking about, look, you know, we really should spend some time on the quality of life issues, you know, perhaps push back a couple of sort of the bigger feature stuff so we can do that. But if we're doing that, why don't we ask you guys? Why don't we see what's interesting to you? Because it's always, you know, for us, we have our ideas, but you know, there's hundreds of thousands of you guys out there, and I think in terms of, you know, what is more interesting, what are the things that you want to do, or you know, I still remember back in the very early days when we did our survey of what profession people would be interested in, and you know, of course, I'm just always thinking, well, because you know, most space sim games have been very combat oriented, so you're thinking, okay, it's, you know, being a pirate or a mercenary or maybe even a trader. But you know, I think it was something like 70% of the people wanted to be explorers, right? So that was a surprise, but that's cool. And then we're like, okay, well, we need to put gameplay to allow you to do that. And it did kind of affect sort of where we went. So I mean, we went a different way than say something like Elite or No Man's Sky, where they sort of procedurally did everything. But one of the reasons why we went with the procedural tech to build the worlds to the level of detail we did was we thought that sort of micro exploring versus, like that idea of getting landfall on a planet and discovering the mountain or the lake or really getting into the detail would be something that'd be great. So we're still working towards realizing that, but you can already see it with the 3 moons that we have around Crusader and Delamar, and in our upcoming releases it's obviously going to get bigger and wider, but that sort of affected because we were thinking about, okay, like we want people to sort of be tactile and get out there and explore. And so we thought it would be really useful to have a discussion about things that we've identified that we want to improve for the immediate experience, and then also get some feedback of sort of the bigger long-term professions, what's interesting or what's the most important to you guys. Mining's already been in progress. It started at the beginning of this year. I know in our roadmap it says scheduled, but it's actually been in progress. It should be that should be changing in the next roadmap. I don't know if it'll be this Friday, but the one afterwards. But we've been working on that, and that has a lot of infrastructure issues in terms of making sure the resources are mapped on the planets, and we can persist them across instances, and we can generate it and handle all the stuff. So we're making very good progress on that, and I think it's going to be a very cool feature that people will be really happy with. So that's definitely 3.2 that's not happening. But in terms of some of the other ones, we would like to know priorities, because if we're going to add some stuff to 3.2, it's a zero-sum game. We're going to have to shift some other stuff out. So what's more interesting? Is repair more interesting than salvage? Is more interesting than refueling? Those kind of things. So I know that's the point of this sitting here.
One of the unique challenges that Star Citizen has is that we are operating a live game environment in the middle of our game development.
Yes, so it's a massive challenge.
Yes. So some of what we're going to talk about today is that balancing act between adding new features and going back and revisiting old ones and making them better, making them more user-friendly, making them more enjoyable, because at the end of the day, it's a video game. Video games are supposed to be fun to play and whatnot. So to that end, we are launching later today our Alpha 3.2 feature survey. You're going to see that up on the robertspaceindustries.com website. It will be a survey for backers. So it'll only be available to backers. So if you do go to this thing and it doesn't let you do anything, that's probably because you're either not logged in or you're not a backer. So you should consider supporting the project.
Yeah, exactly.
and have your voice heard. But when the feature survey launches today, you've already said we'll talk a little bit about big profession-based features like salvage, mining, or salvage and repair and refueling. But a lot of it is quality of life stuff, is the kind of things that'll make playing the game easier to play with your friends. My dad's been asking me, "Hey, son, when are you going to play Star Citizen?" And I'm like, but now if we add some of these features, I'm not going to have an excuse anymore. I'm going to have to play the game with my dad. So be careful when you vote. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these features we have now. We can show you what the survey is going to look like. JJ, why don't you go and bring that up there? All right, so we've got this. So when this goes live later today, you'll see your Star Citizen Alpha 3.2 feature survey. We've got a little preamble, pretty much a much shorter version of what Chris just did. So we'll go ahead and skip past that. And some of the feature improvements that we're going to be discussing for the survey this for 3.2 is things like quantum linking, improved interdiction, service beacon improvements. So why don't we just go from top to bottom here? Let's talk a little bit about quantum linking. What is quantum linking in a nutshell, and why should people consider?
Well, I mean, it's you and your friends. You're heading to a destination, and you first of all you need to share the destination, and also everyone jumps at the same time. So when you're traveling there and someone gets interdicted, you get pulled out all at the same time. So it's, I mean, I think for multiplayer gameplay or playing with your friends, it's super important. So it's been on our horizon. We've discussed it. We've implemented elements of it, but we haven't managed to finish it off because there's always been some big new massive shiny thing that we're trying to do. And so, we've actually, one of the, you'll see on a couple of things here, we said, okay, look, getting in with your friends, playing together, doing stuff together, how do we make that simpler, easier? Because we have elements, little bits of it, but they're kind of, like it's not nearly as, friendly or as polished as it can be, and it's all sort of like halfway solutions that we've said, well, this is a temporary thing. When we have the new shiny thing, it will be great. So now's the time to sort of say, okay, yeah, let's not keep deferring this, right? And this is actually something that I've in general sort of made a direction this year, which is like, do not think like one of the problems that we have in Star Citizen is that we constantly are thinking about when all this is done, like it's all like projecting into the future.
Yeah.
Well, when we have all this, it'll be great, right? But we basically are operating a live game, as you said, right now. People are playing. I mean, we have people playing hundreds, thousands of hours, even in some cases, and they've got a lot of patience. I mean, you really do, because there's a bunch of issues and quality of life things.
Shout out to our streamers.
And so, I mean, so it's like let's recognize what we have, which is a live game. Make sure that the live experience we make sure is as good as possible, and then we're adding on all this extra functionality and content as we go. But don't forget, because I think with 3.0, we rushed to put so much stuff in that I think we did ourselves a disservice and essentially released something that was lacking polish or had broken features, and I don't really want to be doing that going forward. And so, so one of the things that we were looking at is, okay, in terms of, chatting with your friends or getting together with them and all joining together in the same place and making that easy and making that accessible, or go to places together like the quantum linking. They're all things that we should spend some time to make sure it's well and polished. And a lot of times on our features, we put the base stuff in, and then that team's scheduled to do some new feature. But of course, there's always bug fixing and polish, and then maybe enhancements in the features, or you see people use it and you go, oh, we can make that better. Well, that all takes time, and you have to do, and you have to. So where's that time going to come from for the teams? And so that's kind of what we're focusing on now.
So quantum linking is not just you and your buddies and other ships going together, and if one of you gets interdicted, it pulls all of you out. So you're no longer having to face these AI pirates by themselves. But it's also great for the service beacon missions. You'll be able to pick up missions, and now if you've got to go out to some out there area, you don't. It's this one. Scroll over here. Scroll over here. No, that's not the right one. Now you can all link and you can all go together.
Yes. Yeah.
So a pretty important feature. And I do want to mention, because I'm looking at the chat while we're talking, the vote is not do this or this. These are all features that are going to go into Star Citizen at some point.
So to be totally clear, these are all things we are definitely going to do. What we're interested in knowing is what's the most important things, because
priorities.
That helps make us priorities. We're actually going to try to do all this stuff and maybe get it all done for 3.2, but we have to have a priority list, because we will have to at some point make a call. If something's running behind, something would have to get pushed. And so what we're really interested in is what are the most important things for you guys, because that really helps us in terms of ordering, what our teams work on first, or if there's a conflict between two things, who wins.
Okay. Even with 475 plus people around the world, there's still only so many things you can work on at any given time. There's always limited resources.
And there is never enough people. Everyone wants more people. So I'm constantly amazed. If you told me that this company would be the size it is, and we're doing all this, and it would take this many people to do this, then I would have told you you're absolutely insane about 4 years ago. 3 years ago, probably too as well. But I think it is part of the fact that the game is so big and is built at such fidelity, but also at such scale, and that we're operating a live project at the same time as doing development, and also building this incredibly ambitious single-player game, Squadron 42. It's just a lot.
It seems like a good time to say that I need like 5 more people to talk after the show. All right, so moving on from quantum linking, which it seems like a pretty valuable feature. Our next one on the list was improved interdiction. Now, improved interdiction. Why don't you just take us from there? What is improved interdiction?
Well, first of all, we're trying to, even in 3.1, we sort of have done some interdiction improvements to make sure that the spawning is like when you get interdicted, the AI are close. so it's not like someone's 10 or 8 kilometers away, because in 3.0 it was just a fixed number, and the fixed number was determined by the biggest thing, which was the scenario that I think had some asteroids, and so there had to be a big distance. So now the distances and the arrangement of the ships is more dependent on the kind of scenario you're getting pulled out into. We even have, we've put the first basically, we've always planned to have sort of a quantum jammer, which was going to be an item which could either be on a ship, or it can be a sort of mine or a buoy that you could put out. And so we actually implemented that for AI. So the AI ships in 3.1 that interdict you, one of the ships will have this item, and we're going to, I think it's not in the current right now in the PTU, but it will be by the time hopefully we release next week. You should be able to see which one is actually jamming, and you have to disable it or destroy it, and then you'll be able to jump again, right? Or get far enough away from the jamming signal to be able to do quantum again. So with the interdiction improvements, we won't need to finish off the item functionality, make it available to players to equip the component, or like deploy or launch a buoy. So in 3.1 we don't have the buoy. We would have the buoy in 3.2. We have a very simple version of the component, the item, in 3.1. It would be a much more sophisticated one that pulls more power. Like obviously if you got the power, you could see maybe the EM signal of the ship would be much greater, and you'd be able to go, okay, that's the one that's jamming my ability to use quantum. And then we're also going to enable it so players then can deploy this and pull other players or AI out. And so that's going to be kind of fun, because you could, so if I'm a pirate, I can deploy it, and maybe I don't catch players, but I can catch some AI generated cargo, haulers, and attack them, or go and take their cargo. And then we have another feature that would tie into this, which I think is the service beacon thing, which ties into another one we're talking about, but we'll also want to make AI ships be able to also do our service beacon responses. So you could have a nice feedback loop where a player puts a quantum buoy out, catches a AI cargo hauler, who then generates a service beacon help request that brings in another player to surf, or another AI. So that's a core gameplay loop. I mean, like if you play Freelancer, or you play Privateer, the whole point of there has to be some risk or challenge to get to locations, and obviously in more dangerous areas you get paid more for your cargo or whatever, but then there's a higher chance of being interdicted or attacked. And so we need to make that gameplay loop of going from point A to point B challenging, right, but not annoying. So in 3.0 definitely annoying, 3.1 I think it'll be better, and 3.2 is again focusing on that core, because that is the core gameplay loop in a lot of sort of space sim games and space trading games.
So it's not just new tech for the interdiction, it's actually a increased variety in the type of scenarios.
Yeah, no, definitely. So again, we'll be building more fluid scenarios, making them more sort of emergent, and there's a feedback loop between what AI and players do, and so I think it would make the world just feel more alive and more things going on.
And I, for one, I'm going to relish the opportunity to get revenge on some of these AI players and interdict them just over, and I'm just going to log in for like 8 hours straight and just interdict AI over and over and over again. This is for 3 hours. All right, so this leads into the service beacon improvements. So why don't we go ahead and bring up the sheet here. Service beacon improvements. The service beacon will expand and evolve to include new contract types, additional filters, and more feedback precision. AI characters will be able to interface with the system so that they too will be able to request help and provide assistance to others, which will in turn increase both how much this type of immediate content we can offer at any given time, as well as the likelihood that someone, whether player or non-player character, will be drawn to respond to your calls for support. So what can we add to that service beacon?
Well, I mean, we already have service beacon work on the 3.2 roadmap. What we're talking about is some of the stuff we did, but also, like I mentioned, AI's been able to also generate service beacon requests, which sort of creates a really nice feedback loop. I think we've decided that we need to spend a little more time on the usability and focus. The first issue of the first use of service beacon will be in 3.1, which was nice. We moved it up from 3.2 into 3.1, so I know everyone had a lot of teeth gnashing when bang culling went out of 3.1.
Yeah.
But the service beacon stuff, came in, which is I think going to add a little bit of gameplay, but it really is going to sort of come alive more in 3.2, and will include things like the sort of ability to be able to rate and, yes, this one's a reliable service beacon person, or no, they're a bit sketchy.
Yeah, the service beacon system is new for 3.1, and even though 3.1's only been in PTU for a couple days, many backers won't have experienced it as a system yet.
Well, and I think in some of the past releases it wasn't functional, so I'd have to check. I think in the PTU release that will be happening today, people should be able to be using the service beacon. But yeah, it's a very, very new thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool because they're basically player generated. It's the first stage of player generated missions, and the whole service beacon system is actually how players, it's basically a player contract manager. It's like, hey, I need you to do this job, whether it's help me, I'm under attack, or it's take me from point A to point B, or escort me from point A to point B, or eventually take out this person, or whatever it would be. This is how players will enter into contracts with other players, put jobs and missions out. Will also probably be how they'll be able to sort of, like you can hire some people to help you do this big run, which you'll make a bunch of money on, and then you distribute some of your costs go to the people you had to hire to help you to do the run. And so the service beacon is the infrastructure that allows that, and we're building on top of it, and it's very critical, I think, for the player interaction. We're talking about you with your friends or interacting with other players, achieving stuff either together in cooperation, or in some cases you could be in opposition. But I think very much a good focus of Star Citizen is the idea of like you and your friends going and doing stuff together, whether it's against AI or it's against players. It's kind of up to you, but I think our big focus is, yes, this is an online game. How can me and my friends go and have fun together?
A pretty big feature, all told.
Yep.
And I'm just imagining that somebody is going to end up creating a Star Citizen Yelp to start reviewing people and service beacon contracts.
That's actually the idea. So the service beacon is going to have that.
Okay.
So it's going to have like the equivalent of the Yelp ratings or the Uber ratings, where you can both rate the person that's responding, taking the contract, and the person that's giving the contract. So it'll help to have that sort of, if someone's basically, they do a honeypot deal, like, you give them a 0-star or 1-star rating, and, you see this person who's offering a contract and they've got, their rating's 1 versus someone offering a contract whose rating's 5, you're going to take the person that has a 5 rating.
My condolences to Tyler Wicken ahead of time. All right, moving on from service beacon improvements, one of the more intriguing options that are on the survey, at least for me, speaking only for myself, first tier of guilds and associations. Now, this kind of came up in our Aegis Vulcan promotion with the Wayfarers Club, and I've seen a lot of people talking who thought that this was just sales copy. This was just something for the lore, but this is actually, the Wayfarers Club is actually a guild or association that's going into the game. It'll be a functional organization in the game.
Yeah. So we've always had a plan, and this was true in Privateer or things like Freelancer 2. That you have, non-player organizations or guilds, like the classic ones are the Merchant Guild or the Mercenary Guild. And so we have those, and we also want to have a level of associations. So like, the Wayfarers Club's almost like AAA in space. And, like you have here in America in AAA, they have services that'll come out and they'll tow you or whatever. And also if you, go to certain places, they'll give you discounts. Because they pre-negotiated discount. And so we actually want to start to put the infrastructure in for the various guilds and associations you'll do. So in 3.2, it'll be the very beginning of that. But as we go through, we'd build much more of it up. And so what you would do is you would essentially earn some money or pay with your UEC to be a member of this guild that you would pay your dues to, but you get benefits for it. Like for instance, jobs or missions that maybe you couldn't get somewhere else, or you could get help in a way that you wouldn't normally get it, or you get discounts in areas.
Cryastro, discount gas prices. At
Yeah,
Cryastro.
exactly. I mean, that's the sort of what we were talking about for the Wayfarer Club. So it's the beginning of that, and that we'll definitely have quite a lot of these that would be sort of focused on the different, like I'm sure there'll be a salvagers organization and various different those in the world that you can, as an ex-military one you could join or whatever it would be. So we want to start to put that in to kind of lay that infrastructure because it's quite important for, I think, the long-term gameplay.
Very cool. So yeah, that stuff we were talking about in the Aegis Vulcan promotion wasn't just a flavor copy. You should check that out if you haven't already. Wayfarers Club.
Nothing's just flavor copy. If you read it in the fiction stuff, we're usually thinking of at some point that would actually exist in the world. That's the whole point. So if you read, like the writers do really nice fiction stuff, but a lot of that fiction stuff is specifically seeding what we want to do long term. So don't just view it as fiction. It is highlighting where the game will go.
All right, so next up on the list, the party system. Let's see, the party system reads, these improvements will improve. These improvements, Mike, these improvements will improve the player's ability to create groups, allowing you to team up with your friends or to join the same game instance and cooperate on jobs and missions. That's a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is a massive, complaint or feedback for a long time. And we've always been sort of when we get the full Spectrum integration, then it will get it all. And basically what we've said was, look, we just got to focus some time on this now. Because I mean, I'm saying this, you want to get in with your friends and you want to get in with your org mates or however you want to do it, you need to have an easy way to do it. And right now it's not so easy at all. So we want to spend some actual time on our back end and on our front end side to make that process earlier and sort of be the beginnings of what it ultimately will be. Because let's make it easy. I too many people tell me like, oh, it would be really easy. I would like it much. If I could only get in with my friends reliably.
Counterpoint though, I told my dad I wouldn't play with him until this was in. So if we put it off, say you don't have to vote for it. Think of disco. Sorry, no, party system. It's a big one. Folks have been talking and asking for that for a while. Complementary to that, team chat. Improvements to the team chat system that will polish communication between players and make the experience more robust and intuitive. Work on this system will also begin to factor in the incorporation of Spectrum into the game.
Yeah, well, we've talked a long time. I mean, one of the reasons why we did the whole Spectrum setup on the platform is the idea is we're going to unify, the friends lists and all the rest of the stuff that you'll make on the platform side, and it can also be replicated down on the game side, so you don't have to maintain parallel lists. But basically the chat feature in the game right now is the chat that was in from the very beginning. We spent no time other than just fixing it if it breaks in the game, and how does that work with your list of friends or groups? And so again, it's along with getting together with your friends, getting into the game, having an ability to sort of chat with them in your various sort of setups or groups is super important, and it's also a precursor to the FOIP stuff that's going to come in with 3.3. So we want to get it in there and make that easy, because right now, it's just everyone's in a general chat, which is cool, but it would, and even that still, again, like I said, the implementation of chat that we had before we even did, the PU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's best I don't say anything. All right, so next up on the list, we've got economy shopping UI experience. Now this feature includes the implementation of shopping kiosks in the stores and increased variation of available products, including ship items and weapons not physically available to display. So like mail order catalog.
Yeah, well, I mean, so one of the big things is that, obviously we want to be selling everything in game, ships, ship weapons, ship components, all the rest of stuff. At the moment in the game, because we've got a limited amount of real estate, and we don't have the big landing zones in, we don't have the big planets in yet, we don't have places to sell ship weapons or ships or any of that stuff, because we don't have stores set for them, and we don't have the room for it. Now we will have sort of physical big stores and displays as the landing zones come in and all the rest of the stuff, but we haven't done the sort of shopping kiosk functionality, which will allow you to have a kiosk in a shop, and you could go through a bunch of ship weapons, or even the buggy or something, and you could see it there and say, okay, I'll buy that, and then it can be delivered to you, but it doesn't need to be displayed in the store. So it would give us the ability to allow you to buy a wider variety of items. Like basically, we want to get rid of the Voyager Direct Store online on the platform. That the goal is that's going away, and you all those items you buy in the game. But we can't do that until we can have like a location to sell you in, and up until now that's sort of waiting for the landing locations. But really, if we can get some of the kiosk stuff in, we can sort of make that move sooner. And I think it would be good, because one of the things we want to do is the ability to sort of upgrade, and it'll come in one of the later features we have here. We want to make the components of your ship much more meaningful. This whole item 2.0 that we've talked about, there's a whole infrastructure for it, but we've got to finish it off properly for you to really realize and understand and see the benefits of it. And one of the components of that is being able to sort of buy bigger and better stuff. And so the shopping kiosk will allow that to happen sooner rather than later, because otherwise we're kind of bound by real estate, and then we're bound by when we roll in the planets and the other locations, which they're kind of dependent on object container streaming and etc. So we think that's a good way to get some of this possibility of gameplay in the game sooner rather than later.
Awesome. So seems like shopping UI, but obviously it's a gateway to a lot of core gameplay.
That's very important.
Which leads us into the item 2.0 ship systems and weapons. So this is another option, this is another feature that you'll be able to vote for. And again, remember, we are doing all of these. This is just about prioritizing. So item 2.0 ship systems weapons says feature work would include finalizing item 2.0 functionality that allows them to overheat, misfire, and suffer critical failures based on factors such as increased wear or damage. It would also introduce deeper functionality to upgradable items so that new power plants, shields, coolers, stealth, comms, radar all make the marked difference to a ship's performance based on how they are configured. So yeah, this is the big thing from this is my Hornet and you have your Hornet. My Hornet won't perform like yours does.
I would say this is probably the biggest missing element of the kind of like core sort of gameplay mechanic of venturing around in space, is that we haven't finished. So we have the infrastructure for item 2.0, and a lot of the bits are there, but not enough of the stuff's in there that the user can realize it. So we already had wear and tear in the 3.2 roadmap, so wear and tear is definitely part of this. But really where it comes in is, the effect of, say, for instance, I'm running my engines, my thrusters hot, right? I'm overpowering them, I'm putting more power to them so I can boost them, so I can turn a bit, for that time I'm turning them, but they're running hot. So as they're running hot, they're becoming overheated. As they're becoming overheated, there's a chance that they may misfire, or they could even have a critical failure. The more they're overheating, the faster the wear increases. Wear also affects your chance of misfire and overheating. So because you need to have downsides to doing things, right? So everything's a trade-off, right? So what we don't really have that's that effective in the game right now is you running your ship should have to be making conscious choices. Am I putting my power to the shields because I'm in a combat, but then I'm not being able to put as much power to my guns, so I can't recharge them as quickly, or I can't put as much power to my thrusters to superheat the plasma to eject the gases to thrust me around. And so what we want to do is give focus much more on making all that whole sort of holistic aspect work. That also has the issues, the downside, the wear, that then means that item, as it gets older or gets worn, and you're not fixing it up. Like if you've got a damaged item, you're not repairing it, the chance that it can misfire or just have a critical failure is much higher, right? So what we want you to do is you've got your ship, you've been out there, you're in a fight, you've got to take back, you're going to have to repair it, make sure the equipment's in good size. It's like if you don't do an overhaul of your jet engine every so many hours of operation, you could quite likely fall out of the sky in the real world. Well, we want you to have those same sort of calls, and and if you overuse it, like you just thrash your in the real world, you thrash your car all the time, you on your brakes all the time. Well, at some point your brakes are going to fail if you don't replace them, right? So we need to make sure that that whole loop is in there and it has effects and players can feel it. And so there isn't any case where one player can just say, oh yeah, well, it doesn't matter, I've got so much power, everything's powered and and everything works perfectly. I want a sort of trade-off in the ships, even big, expensive ships, that you have to make decisions on your resources. Am I doing this or am I doing that? And there's always a pro and a con for both of them. And then also having the item 2.0 finished out properly means that the multi-crew behavior that you can do is much more. Like, so one of the things in, say, a Constellation versus in a Hornet is the crew could run around and like be fixing up components as they're sort of failing that would enable you to last longer in a fight or out in space. So if you're getting hits on your shield and your power plant is putting out energy to try and keep the shields up, right? As that strain on your power plant, the power plant would have at some point misfire opportunity. If it misfires, one of the fuel rods in the power plant goes. Power plant now has, say, 4 fuel rods, so now it goes to 75% power instead of 100% power. As a player, you could go and change the subcomponent, the fuel rod, out on it, and then get it back to 100%, right? And the more and the same for other items could have fuses and stuff. And so we have these subcomponents. We've got the art even for them, but having that whole loop hooked up, you can go and do stuff. And I mentioned Sea of Thieves at the top of it, and it has some kind of like much smaller stuff. Yeah. But you're in a fight, and cannonball comes into your ship, and there's a hole in your ship, and if you don't put a plank on it and you don't bail out the water, I mean, that's cool, right? There's someone's there, driving the ship, someone's down trying to bail out the water, someone's firing the cannons, and that's what we've had as our design from day one, back in 2012 and 13, and I sort of feel like we need to finish it off properly instead of talk about it and get it done. So that's a big sort of drive for me to because I think it will provide a vast amount of fun and gameplay and challenges and trade-offs and discussion for everyone out there.
When you talk about having to maintain your components or they misfire, all I kept thinking was Han Solo and the Falcon in Star Wars versus Han Solo and the Falcon in Empire Strikes Back. One it's maintained, one it's not, and you can see the difference there. Also, Lando and the Falcon in the new Solo movie. Excited. All right, and then the final of the feature improvements that backers will be able to vote on: FPS AI combat. The first stage of getting combat AI into the persistent universe. Now, this would expand mission types by introducing the risk that an AI could be waiting to ambush you on a distant moon or in a Hulk drifting in space. Now, you say FPS, we're talking like not in the ships. Obviously, we have combat.
Yeah, we have ship combat. No, it's basically we have all these great space wrecks, but there's not a lot of, unless there's some other player there waiting to ambush you, there's not a lot of a challenge in it. So the goal or the idea has always been that some of these wrecks could have some outlaws or pirates waiting to ambush you, and creates a known risk, challenge, and also just kind of fun for us to use another part of our we've got a very full-featured FPS game inside of our full-featured flying around in space game, and you don't really have an opportunity to use it that much outside of playing other players. And ultimately, the goal in the Star Citizen universe is to sort of be 90% kind of AI environment, 10% players. And there's all the problem with player versus player stuff is that there's always a loser in that case that's a player, right? So there's someone that's pissed off. But AI don't get pissed off when they get shot in the face. They don't get pissed off when they get blown up in space. And so I think it's very important to have a lot of AI or environment encounters, whether it's in space or down on the ground. So as a player, even if I'm not that great, I can I took that pirate out, or I'm a badass, right? And I may not be nearly as good of a pilot as the guy that's obsessively, or the girl that's obsessively playing 30 hours a week and can snipe me at a kilometer or whatever. But it allows people to sort of have fun, because combat to a certain extent is one of the core mechanics. And so I think we're missing in the PU the sort of ground combat aspect, or like shipboard combat aspect. And so this is the first aspect of it, and obviously definitely always on our plans, but we kind of want to try to make a bit of a push for it, just to have some challenge or variety when you're down on these moons, or these large amounts of area that we've created for you to explore. Like, let's have some challenges, let's have some risks down there, rather than just looking at the sunset or the sunrise.
I can already see the Reddit thread. Chris hates PvP being created. He doesn't. We're talking about adding to it. We've got PvP now.
Yeah. No, I don't hate PvP. I just
adding to it.
I think what you want to do is you want to have a game that allows for both, and allows people to choose kind of what they're more interested in. That's the service beacon stuff and all the rest of the stuff. And so I'm hoping that if we put a structure together, and the way that we're doing it, it will allow for both types of play. And I kind of view what's going to happen with PvP is going to be more player organization driven, and they'll be fighting over resources on this vast amount of land that we're now creating with this sort of very detailed procedural system. So I sort of view you're going to have individual players that are playing sort of lone wolf style, small groups of friends doing stuff together cooperatively. I could kind of see them being more kind of PvE focused, like let's go and adventure and do stuff, and we have fun and get attacked by AI pirates or whatever it would be. And then the bigger orgs on a player basis are fighting over resources and various aspects that are sort of player PvP, and but it allows people to sort of choose what they want. And a group of a smaller group could join a larger player group and be part of this bigger battle, or org versus org battle. So I think we can have all those in the game, and I'd like to do it in a sort of organic, holistic way. So I don't want people to sort of only be in a PvP server or only be in a PvE server. I want it to be, this is the world, and it's sort of up to you to sort of play and choose your challenges.
All right. So, but that's the Alpha 3.2 feature survey that'll go live later today. Look for that shortly after the conclusion of this show. We've got about 10 minutes left. You want to do some backer questions from the chat here?
Let's do it.
Right off the bat, this question came up a bunch of times. We talked a little bit about it, but how far are we in the development of mining gameplay? It's a necessary question, but it came up so many times. I feel like I have to ask.
We're pretty deep into it. We generate. We have a resource map for the various planets, which determines what kind of resources can be mined, which also determines what kind of rocks are generated. We already have the gameplay for controlling your mining laser and breaking apart rocks. The goal is that you should be able to, once you learn how to do it, you could mine just by sort of the visual and oral feedbacks, but you also will have sort of UI that will sort of be telling you like how much energy you're putting in and how close to in the optimal zone the rock is, or it's going to go critical and blow up. But we're pretty far along. I mean, I've been reviewing the sprint reviews of it, and it's looking good. So by 3.2, I'm pretty confident that it'll be pretty full featured and polished.
Okay. This question also came up quite a bit. One of the ships coming online with 3.1 is the Misk Razor. We've had the Dragonfly with 3.0. The Nox Coup is coming with 3.1, which is also a racing variant. We haven't had any additions to racing gameplay for some time.
Yeah. So we've actually, we don't have it on the list here. We've talked about trying to get some racing stuff in for 3.2 if we can make it. Definitely in for 3.3. The other thing, which is sort of going to the playing of now in the game, is that we've decided that we need to make sure that we give love to Arena Commander, we give love to Star Marine, we give love to Murray Cup Racing, and so we're in the process of looking to build dedicated teams to focus on that. Because the problem right now is that we did the Arena Commander because that was okay, let's get the dogfighting working, and then we did Star Marine because that's like get the FPS working, and they're all sort of feeding into the PU. So all the people that were supporting and doing that do PU stuff now. So essentially we just sort of fix up stuff in Arena Commander and Star Marine, but we're not really adding new content, polishing and keeping up there. And we sort of feel like we need to have some dedicated Scrum teams that you're the Arena Commander team, you're the Star Marine team, and we're adding new levels, new challenges. Because for me, the long-term vision for what we're doing here in Star Citizen is, yes, you've got the PU that you're adventuring in, but Arena Commander is where you go to practice, so you don't have to risk your stuff. It's also where you can go and you can easily sort of just, you're on a certain level playing field, so you can say objectively who's the best dogfighter in a way that would be maybe hard in the PU. And the same for Star Marine and the same for the Murray Cup racing. Now we're going to have racing that will be embedded in the PU that you can do, which will be really kind of cool. But the idea is, I want to make Arena Commander and Star Marine viable ongoing game modes that have updates, that have new content, and that allow people, because I think sometimes you may just say, you know what, I don't have the time to get into the PU and do a big mission with all my friends, but maybe I just want to get in and have a see how I do on the leaderboards and have a quick dogfight, or get into a quick Star Marine match. So I feel like we've done a disservice by getting these game modes up and running to get a mechanic working, and then once we have, we just okay, it's in the PU now, we don't worry about it. So we are definitely going to do that. So do look for stuff that we'll add for racing. That is on our agenda. Only downside is, unfortunately, good resources don't grow on trees. So hiring the people and getting them up takes a bit of time, but it is a goal for us to have dedicated stakeholders that's all they're doing. They're not getting distracted to fix something else on the PU. So look for that to be happening towards the later part of this year.
All right. Well, we did it.
That's it?
That's it. No,
wow.
Yeah. Hours up. Everybody always dreads coming on the show with me, and then I'm like, it goes by fast. Don't worry about it. All right. So remember, the Alpha 3.2 feature survey will go live very shortly later today. Look for that. That's open to all backers. It's not a concierge exclusive or subscriber exclusive. If you supported the project, you'll be able to cast your vote, and that'll go for roughly about a week. I think we're still kind of flexible with the end time, but it'll be at least a week.
Yeah, so we probably want it done. I would think before we start on 3.2 stuff. So
exactly. Yeah, we need the feedback so that we can make our decisions for 3.2.
So we are aiming to go live with 3.1 at the end of next week.
All right. So look for that later today. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome, Jared, and thank you everyone out there tuning in and listening, and everyone that's backed us. Thank you very much. I think hopefully you guys are going to like 3.1, and this year I'm pretty excited. I think we've got a good cadence going, so it's going to be good.
All right. We'll see you in a few minutes, everybody. Take care.